I think men can have a pink fluffy pen.
It's pretty woke, Jake.
It's not TalkTV turning woke. Look, I think this is really important because it comes after the news that the telly tax or the licence fee is going up to £173 from April next year. So people are paying through the nose for the BBC. And they're getting a bit fed up with it on their list, all this wokeification of their airways.
Well, this debate has been going on for a really long time now. It's all about the BBC's political impartiality. I think before all this Gary Lineker malarkey, if you can call it that, I think lots of people just thought that the BBC's impartiality guidelines just related to its news programmes and its political coverage. But actually, we've learned from this that it stems to all of their coverage. It stems to their presenters. You know, Gary Lineker's Match of the Day man, he's a sportsman. He doesn't actually have much involvement in politics whatsoever.
What? There's not much involvement. He's the top political correspondent of the BBC at the moment, Gary Lineker.
Well, OK, well...
He'll be after your job next, don't you? Don't think we can afford the £1.3 million salary that he's allegedly paid.
Oh, yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? I also don't think he'd bring you a pink fluffy pen, to be honest, so I don't know if he's good enough for the job. But back to the subject, the idea that this is all about other programmes on the BBC. I think Doctor Who's had a mention because it's been hinted that Doctor Who is gay. There's been a transgender alien in there. And
who he misgendered.
And lots of people are just saying, hang on, is this just the BBC going a bit too far here? And are they actually displaying wokeism?
Well, I think they are. What, do you think Agatha Christie, an allegory on colonialism, Becca, is that what people want to watch? Do they not just want to settle down to a Poirot or a Miss Marple? They don't want to be lectured to about politics.
But you can sit down and enjoy this stuff, can't you? And isn't this all just about kind of slightly, you know, as sort of society progresses and the media that we enjoy, the shows that we watch, the TV we consume kind of moves with us. And I think kind of updating things like Agatha Christie or Doctor Who so that it feels even more current brings it to a new audience, which is great for the BBC because, as you say, there is a substantial licence fee that we have to pay for it.
Yeah.
I'm starting to sound like you. We pay a significant contribution towards it. So I think it reaching new audiences is really, really important. And there's no harm with this stuff. You know, of course, Doctor Who could be gay. Of course, a character in Agatha Christie can be black. You know, this isn't an attack on values. It's just about modernising as we have done it in society.
Do you think that's what people want? I understand that from the news. It's absolutely right that the news keeps up with current affairs and talks about the changes in British society. And many of those changes, in fact, the fact that we can, you know, people can be gay and no one just cares about it anymore and really progressive things like that. It's really important in terms of political discussion and the news. But entertainment?
Yeah, I think it's actually really important. You know, I think things like EastEnders, I'm not sure when any of us watch it, but when big mainstream shows tackle issues around transgender, sexuality, immigration, domestic violence, you know, this is people at home in engage mode. And actually, it's a really important way of reaching people who aren't sitting and watching Newsnight or listening to the Today programme, which, as we know from audience figures, are getting smaller and smaller. So I actually think these tools are really, really important, you know, for reaching people and making people feel included. I find it quite heartwarming.
Yeah, people felt excluded from telly years gone by?
So for the sake of balance, people who are really anti this will argue that when they're watching, you know, any kind of thing that isn't political or news related, they actually just don't want to be reminded of politics, news, and all these dividing lines. That's what people argue.
But do you think there's a bit of regionality about this as well? Because the BBC is still they have a significant campus in Salford, in Greater Manchester, in the city of Salford. But it still does feel very London-centric. And I think lots of people making these decisions about the sort of rewriting Agatha Christie novels are part of the London bubble. I can tell you that people sat around in Lancashire do not talk and say, you know, do we think Agatha Christie is an allegory on colonialism? They just go, well, you know, who cares? I just want to be entertained.
I think that's a really, really good point, really valid point. I also think something else to take into account is the age demographics for the people who watch these things. There is a big correlation between alleged wokeism and people who don't feel quite so strongly about it. And there's a really big relation between how old people are as well. So it'd be interesting to know. I don't actually know what the age audience is for Doctor Who and things like that. I presume Agatha Christie is probably an older target audience, but Doctor Who, I'm not actually sure what that age demographic is.
But Doctor Who is the Doctor Who spans the generations, of course. And most people who watch Doctor Who, like me, were instrumental in setting up their chess club at school. And as fans of science fiction, we all tend to be a bit nerdy. I'm a big Star Trek fan. But the main point is that I think this is why the BBC audience for those sort of news programmes is collapsing. Why are football grounds fuller than churches? Because people prefer to be entertained than preached to, even though There's nothing wrong with either of it. The BBC is losing audience because when you tune into the Today programme, for example, a programme that I listen to every single day from the age of about 14, I don't listen to it anymore. I listen to Times Radio. It's much more entertaining. The reason I don't listen to BBC is when I turn it on, within a couple of minutes, it's told me that I've got white privilege. It's told me that I'm racist because I don't sort of worry about the slave trade every single day. It is just lecturing people about the way they should live their lives. And